And good evening, everyone. ESS, Empire State Sports, proudly presents the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show with our co-hosts Dave Bartlett and Joey Riem. And our interviewee this evening will be Nate Bilow from Northern Adirondack High School, Central School, actually, in Ellenburg, New York. Welcome aboard, Nate.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
I got a funny feeling this is going to be anything but boring, this show. So I remember the first time, but I'll let Joey handle that part of what we did. But I'll turn it over to Joey to start things off. How's that?
All right.
So we've been doing this for 3 weeks now. I've had a few people, Randy, Jenna, last night with Missy, got me on the verge of tears. But there'll be no verge of tears tonight. I guarantee that.
Unless you're laughing.
And all this week we had unbelievably classy guests, and we finish it off with probably the classiest person in the North Country, Mr. Nate Bilow. So, hey, buddy, it's number one. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
And first question I've been asking teachers: what are you doing? How are you doing it? How are you teaching elementary PE right now? You doing anything?
Well, let's lead in. I want to say thanks for having me first, Joey. I mean, I let all you guys know. I even clipped my fingernails for the show before we got going. So that's how much this is beyond your show. I did get a chance to read your, what was printed in the paper and whatnot about your show and what you guys have been doing. And of course, I've been following it, watching some shows, and you've certainly had bigger guests than me. How did I land Friday night, Joey? Let me start with a question for you. How did I get Friday night when you had bigger stars than me on your show?
Friday night's our happy hour show, and we just figured you are the perfect guest for happy hour.
I got the Friday Night Lights. I can't believe it. I'm honored.
We want a pressure-free show on Friday. We want to lead into the weekend with good vibes, and not that every show we've done is good vibes, but I mean, we're going to be loose and have a good time with this one.
Well, I got the chance to watch it last night, and one of the first things Pete led into was he was nervous about being on there with Missy and Colleen and the people that they talked about. Pete, how come you don't feel that about me? You
and I have a history, Nate. I think we've already passed that, so we're past that point already. Trust me. If I can get over the first time we interviewed you I got to tell this story. I've been waiting for Joey to tell, but we interviewed Nate Bilow about 7 years ago, I'm guessing. It's got to be close to that.
Long time.
Where do you want to meet, Nate? Oh, I don't know. Well, what do you got going on this date? And he goes, I'll be at the fair. What fair? Franklin County Fair. You want to do an interview at the Franklin County Fair? He says, oh, hell yeah. So Joey and I were doing it back then, and we met him at a concession stand and sat up on the far side. People were looking at us like we had three heads, but we had a hell of a time. I never laughed so hard in my life.
It was a good show. It was a good show. I had fun doing it.
So we figured, what the hell, we'll have you back again.
I'm glad you did.
Well,
so your first question, Joey, was about school. I got a YouTube thing. I'm trying to learn this out. I've done a lot of Richard Simmons-like videos, and I put them up for the kids, and I just, tell the kids to join along with me, jumping jacks and push-ups, and I hope the kids are tuning in. That's all I can ask for.
Oh, my God.
Sweating to the oldies.
Oh, man.
Well, I'll be honest. Before we left, Joey, they had us do a bunch of things, and I got on the phone with, that March 13th was the last day. We didn't have students, but we were in there, and I just got in with, I got on the phone with some other PE teachers, and, what types of things are you doing? And I went online, and they had some, I call them cookie cutter, ideas, and, just, do 10 push-ups 3 times throughout the day. I mean, in the phys ed, I don't know what other people are doing. There's a lot of, like openpe.com or org. There's ideas and there's resources out there for people to do, but it's hard to hold anybody accountable in the PE world, Joey,
Well, and you're in elementary PE, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would bet that they would be a little bit more gung ho for doing anything that you have to offer. But how much can you offer, elementary kids at this age,
And how am I going to prove they did it? A checklist, and then somebody signs off on it the day before we get back, and there's, 30 or 40. Yeah, we did this. We did this. We did this. I did what I could. I gave them a push-up routine that they could do. I gave them a few ideas, and leave them my email and my phone number. And if they have any questions or any thoughts, I'm here to answer them,
So, obviously the news came down today that we're done now for the year. I think we all sensed that, felt that was going to happen anyway. But
yeah.
You have any? I mean, other than you'd probably be doing some off-season basketball stuff. You don't have any other spring sports connections. You didn't coach anything else, right, Nate?
I did 1 year, Joey. I coached JV baseball at the school, and I'm going to tell you, I've coached basketball every level. I mean, I did my daughter's team. This year, 5th and 6th grade girls, 5th and 6th grade boys, did the JV boys this year, did the varsity boys. And I've coached a lot of basketball. My love's in that. But I'll tell you what, the 1 year that I coached JV baseball, man, I don't know if I've ever had a better time coaching. Being it was a JV level and not necessarily my program, I was helping my buddy out who was doing the varsity at the time. And, the first meeting we got in there and I said, okay, boys, which one of you guys has pitched? And, I said, no, at any level, little league, baby, whatever, just who's been on the mound, and not one kid raised their hand. And I said, all right, I'm going to tell you right now then, if you guys expect to win one game and nobody's ever pitched before, then walk out the door right now, because this season's not going to take place. I said, I'm not going to listen to guys moaning and complaining about wins and losses. That was the only year I ever coached. And at the end of the year, it was funny, man. I got to do the end of the year speech for that. And of course, we didn't win a game. I got some great stories about that. I got a kid in the batter's box, and he had never played baseball before. And he's standing in there to bat, and the ball goes by him. Strike 3, the ump says. And the kid stands there, and this is a 10th. The ump says to the kid, he goes, hey, son, that's strike 3. He turns back, he said, hey, thanks a lot. And he dug back in. So that was the only year I coached that sport. And, I don't even know if we've had JV baseball here lately. Our numbers are down a little bit, as in a lot of sports that we see in the high school level. So I think, no, man, I've fortunately or unfortunately, no matter how you look at it, because as well as I do, Joey, we would have been right still coaching, practicing a day or two a week, and then Saturdays and Sundays in the gym somewhere with the kids, especially when you've got all those levels you're trying to cover. So I'm not going to say I necessarily love it, but it is nice to have a little break from it for the first time in 14 years.
Well, yeah, speaking for somebody that ended my AAU stuff pretty much last year, you knew that. And I was ready to dive back into it this spring because I had kids that were going to get me going again. And now it's not there. I mean, it's amazing that it's, there's something every weekend if you want to play, that.
Sure.
Now we can't even have an open gym. Can't even get together to have an open gym. So it's just been one of the strangest times ever for off-season basketball.
Yeah, and I've heard you say that in some of your previous conversations. You're more than willing to do it as long as the kids want to do it. But so when you finally get a group of kids that are saying, "Coach, let's do it, let's go play," and from the sounds of it, sounds like you were going to have a group like that this spring that maybe wanted to get back in and doing it. You certainly don't want to pull teeth to get kids there to do it, but if they're willing to do it, man, I'll open the gym for them. I'll go with them, and we'll cough up the money. We'll do what we can. We'll get them on the court.
Yeah,
certainly that's the way it's going to go. I mean, I listened to 4 or 5 of your guys' broadcasts so far, and I heard Coach Sargent in Augsburg talking about the youth program and how lucky they've been. I mean, where in the hell, how do you get Bill Myrna? Is he really coming in on Saturday morning? I mean, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe some of the names of the guys, the help that they get. And I guess when you build up a program like that has been built there in the last 30 years, I guess that's what you get. I mean, but you know, I couldn't believe it when I heard him saying that, but he had talked about how important it was starting them young and how he had started his own kids young and how they've had such a great run with that crew coming through. And I remember when those guys were coming to NAC when they were in 5th and 6th grade coming to our tournaments. They were sending 2 teams to us. You know, so it's like I said, as long as the kids are willing to and want to get into the gym, man, it makes it a lot of fun. But it's been a nice little break away from it. I've been staying at home a lot and just putzing around here, trying to get some things that I, you know, been meaning to get to, you know, as far as fancying the house up a little bit, doing stuff like that, you know.
What do you think, Nate, too, before this will be my last one, Pete, Dave, then jump in. But what do you think about one of the things I've thought about? I mean, I feel terrible for the kids. You want them out there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I want them doing what they're supposed to be doing. But in a roundabout way, some of these kids are 24/7, 3-sport athletes, and also playing all 3 sports during the off season, you know,
Yeah.
or playing a major sport in one of the off seasons.
Yeah.
They're resting for the first time ever. Kids are resting. They're forced to rest, you know. Makes me think that when we do finally get back going again, we're going to have healthy kids that probably got some energy and some adrenaline built up that they haven't had in a while. They should be rested and healthy.
You know, it's funny. And I read in an article one time about a baseball coach that was talking about, you know, his players coming into the season. And when we're talking somewhere in, you know, Florida, Alabama, Texas, somewhere where baseball is a real thing. And he was saying that, you know, some of his best baseball players were the guys that were either wrestling or playing basketball in the winter. And he said, because, you know, the kids would come in and who were taking hacks in the cage all winter long with him, it becomes mundane. And, you know, it's kind of like when you let the cows out to the pasture. That's his words, not mine. He said, you know, these kids that come in that haven't been playing baseball all right along, all of a sudden they're excited to be there. You know what I mean? And the other guys aren't. So, yeah, hopefully this fall, you know, when this breaks and the kids will say, hey, let's have some open gyms. We've been away from this long enough. Let's get going and go. You know, we've always had open gyms and stuff like that. But even like you see, we're talking about AAU season. I mean, you can only practice one day a week if you want to call it a practice because they got baseball, they got lacrosse, they got whatever they're doing, whatever school you're in. You know, we don't have lacrosse at NAC, but whatever, you know, whatever it is, they're playing. Like you said, they're already playing 101 other things, and they're busy every night of the week. And if it's not them, they got to go watch their little brother or sister. You know, so I mean, hopefully they do come back, and maybe this fall we have some good open gyms, and we're ready to go in the winter for the winter sports.
So Nate, it hasn't always been peaches and cream at NAC. And when you arrived there, you took on the youth program. You hit the door. You know, hit the floor running. I was coaching 5th and 6th grade basketball back then too, and you and I did a lot of games. And then we went up to Joey's tournaments and my tournaments, and you played a lot of ball. But going back to the varsity, you could talk more about the youth program, but going back to the varsity, you walked in I believe it was your first season. Tell me if I'm wrong. You opened up with an 0-18 season, if I'm not mistaken.
My first 4 years as a varsity coach, we won 10 games. I know that, Pete. I don't know if we ever went 0-18. And I already told this story on the last broadcast. I won't get into it too much, but about the kid. Christ, I'll tell the whole story. We started off, and I was doing a session in the classroom with the kids. At the time, I was only doing this is JV before I even took over varsity, and they didn't know how much time you had to get across half court. You know, they played soccer. You can go back and cross midline any you want. And so it came apparent that the kids didn't know, and I asked them to raise their hand. 6 out of the 12 raised their hand. The kid that I called on, he said you had 8 seconds, and that's the NBA rule. And so, you know, making a joke and you know, making light of the situation, trying to be a good storyteller, which is some of the things I've heard other people have been on here talking about to get the kids to believe in what you're saying. You know, I said, this right here, kids, is called the 3 seconds lane. Anybody know how long you have in there? And the kids would chuckle. They said, you got 3 seconds. Well, the next night we're playing a game. We're playing 2-3 defense, and the kid in the middle of the zone on defense out of the middle. So, that's where you started, Pete. And then, you want to talk about the varsity, but, once you start getting into doing that stuff with your third and fourth grade and fifth and sixth grade, it's you have to start them when they're young, and we did, Pete. I'll be honest with you. We used to go to Salmon River, guys, and I was afraid. And Bruce Kelly was up there, and he's like 6'14" or however tall he is. And then you had Pete Goslaw in there, and I didn't know if that was his real last name or what. And we would go up there and we do some battles. What happens if we walk away here and we beat his youth team? I'm this young guy that just started this little program. So, but yeah, and we would do that. And I heard you talk about it, Pete, before. You get out of the gym with your varsity team, and you're back on Saturday with your fifth and sixth grade level team, and it's very important. But we did have some hard times. But the one thing that I can say is that even those group of kids that in the beginning, when we didn't win a lot of games, those kids will still, they'll text me, they'll drive by, they'll honk the horn when I'm mowing the lawn. And that's one of the things that I heard, Missy and Colleen talking about. I said, boy, I never really thought about this, but everything they're saying is ringing true. The wins and losses mean a lot in a lot of people's eyes, but when you start talking about what you're doing with kids and trying to develop them into good people, because let's face it, they're not going to make money playing these sports, most of them. And when you got kids that'll still call you up and say, hey coach, what's up, how you doing, you're staying at home, how's your house life the last 2 months been? These are guys that have graduated from off of those beginning teams, and guys in the recent years, you still get 15, 20 guys, even the guys you thought didn't like you, still get a hold of you once in a while. So, although we didn't win and have success in the amount of wins, there were still successes that were taking place, off the court, I guess, so to speak.
Like I said, it hasn't always been peaches and cream, but you built up quite a dynasty there. Maybe we shouldn't use that word, but a team to be reckoned with over there in your section, which I've been following you for a while. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It really is. And I want to bring up one. You walked, I think you went into Moriah, and you ended their win streak one night, I believe, with a 41 game win streak they had. So
yeah.
And go ahead, Nate.
Well, we were down 13 at halftime, and I knew I had a good team. And I oftentimes I'll record my pregame, mid-game speeches so that I can listen to them and go back over them. And it's funny, not to keep bringing it up, but I've just watched the show, and I listened to Missy talking about Oriema and going over his press conference. I should have said this. I should have done that. I'm like, I tape these things and I go back and I listen to them, and I walked in and I'm not going to lace into these guys. I've had them just like Joey's when his son graduated, the same thing. He had those kids for 10, 12 years. I'm not going to do that to these kids. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have the speech. And Pete, it wasn't but maybe 15 seconds into it, and I kicked the goddamn garbage can over and off went. And I started lacing into him. And who did I start with? I started with my quarterback, with my main man. I told him that these guys are football players. I've watched them already this year. They grab a rebound because they're all 6'5", and as soon as that shot goes up, they're leaking someone, they're throwing over the top, and you better be back and don't let nobody. How can my best player and a guy that's played varsity basketball for me for 4 years let that happen on the first play when we talked about that? And we were down 13, and they responded well, and we came back and we won, and it showed a lot. But at the same token, and then we played them later on at home that year, 2 years ago, and we beat them again. But they beat us in the game that mattered. They beat us in sectionals. They played better, and they had a good game plan, and we lost the game. And I appreciate it, Pete, and what you're saying. And I've done a lot of work, but I never did that work so we could be 17-5. I wanted to be 22-1. I wanted to be on the state rankings, not that it holds a lot of clout. 1 year Seton Catholic was on there. They didn't play in the league we did. They were 18-2, and we were 13-7, and we beat them by 35 points. And how can they be better than us? And but I will say this, we did have a very good run for 5 years, and sometimes in my mind, and I thought this might come up tonight, sometimes in my own mind, I think, man, like I might be the biggest failure ever to coach at that school because of the fact that I've had 3,000 point scorers. I've had 3 league MVPs. I've had guys, shooters, hustlers, rebounders, best point guards. I've had so much talent. How do you only win one sectional title with all that and you beat yourself up over it? And Joey, I know you've been there too. We've talked about it. It's a lot about timing. You got to have luck with all of that. You just run into somebody that's hot. We lost to Ticonderoga, and it wasn't until the Graney kid hits 2 3-pointers with under 2 minutes to go. It went from being a tie game to a 6-point game, and now we're fouling. And Ticonderoga loses to Lake George by 3, and Lake George wins the state title by 2. I mean, damn, we're like top 5 teams in the state, and if we play just a little bit better on one night, we might be against Lake George. Who knows? Maybe we match up better than them. That could have been us. And so we've done well, and I can just attest to this. When I first started, and I'm at the coaches meeting, and I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I'm Nate Bilow, and we're going to win games because I'm coaching us. And people were in a meeting, and they say, "Hey, who needs games? How many games do you got?" And I don't know anything about it. We got 14 league games. Okay, we have 20 games. I need a bunch of games. I raise my hand. I'll take. And everybody there does just like this. They put their face down in their notebook. I didn't want to look at me, because they didn't want to play us. And I don't blame them, because you don't want to waste games when you're going to go beat somebody by 40 points. I mean, I was reading the paper on the way out to the game, and varsity team, it was a girls program, and they didn't score 10 points. I said, how can you play a whole game and not score 10 points? Pete, this is the God's honest truth. We're on our way to Peru. And I swear to God, in the fourth quarter, we had 8 points on the board. And I called it time. I said, I'm telling you right now, when that shot goes up, you 2 guys get down the court. Somebody going to just throw it down there, because we're not getting held on 10 points. I will say this, though, Pete, to answer how I know we've been somewhat successful. When you have teams like Ogdensburg ask you to play them, that's a good thing. I got Madrid Wantington wanting to play us. I've got guys like Joey want to scrimmage us and play us and whatnot. So, we go out to Ogdensburg last year, speak about that, how close we were. Ogdensburg lost to Glens Falls by 7, 8? And Glens Falls won the Federation, okay? We took Ogdensburg to overtime on their floor. So, but again, man, I never set out to be almost, that close. I wanted to be above those Ogdensburgs. I wanted to be the team on the top. And, it's certainly, we went into Mariah. We beat them a couple of years ago when they were having the championship down there in Binghamton. I'm sitting next to this guy, and I'm pretty sure it was Section 4. Is that where the event was held? Binghamton, is that Section 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Binghamton area.
I'm sitting next to this guy, and so another class, they were D that year, Mariah was, and it was the year that they won it, I believe. And I'm sitting next to this guy, and I got my buddy Patterson sitting next to me, and this other guy, he's watching, and they're playing, I believe, the Section 4 team, and he goes, they're undefeated this year. He goes, only one other team. He goes, some other team took him to overtime, and I'm elbowing my buddy. I'm like, he doesn't know. I coached that team that took him to overtime on our home that year, and we had a shot to win the game. I mean, we were down 2 points. And if you've been watching our program, I only got 7 kids on every team. So we had fouled out, and I got 5 guys on the court, and only 2 of them can play now. They're players. And I'm going to come up with a play, and I'm looking around. I said, oh, my God. I said, okay, Perrier, you're going to inbound the ball. No, Jutton, you're going to inbound the ball. Perrier, dribble the court, pass it back to Jutton. You're shooting a 3, because if this goes to overtime, or double overtime, we ain't got a chance to win the game. And he puts it on, it rims out, and I had a still frame of the photo. And, guys, I can tell you, the ball was underneath the cylinder. You can see it in there, but it popped out, and we lost that game. But so as successful as we've been in wins and losses, we went 7-5 last year, lost to Mariah, a sectional champion. We lost to Madrid Waddington on their floor on a Saturday, sectional champion. Lost to Ogdensburg on their floor in overtime last year, sectional champion. Lost to Plattsburgh twice, sectional champion. So everybody we lost to were good teams. So yeah, I'm proud of what we've done, but of course, like anybody, I want more.
Well, it's good to have that fire in the belly, and it also shows the kids that as long as the coach has the fire in the belly, they need to too. So it
Yeah.
it pays off in the end. Sorry, Joey, I didn't want to step on you there.
No, I was going to say, I was at that OFA game scouting because I had OFA on Monday night, and
Remember.
little old NAC, and then SLC stuck in the Central Division, the two C schools. We took Coach Henry and Coach Sargent and OFA, each one of us, back-to-back games into overtime. We took OFA to overtime, and neither one of us came out on the right side. But I know in a roundabout way that Nate and I were both pretty proud of that. I'm like, look where we've come. I've come from 70-point drubbings to OFA to I just took them to OT.
Yeah.
And I was proud of that. I mean, but I also had that feeling that you had, Nate. Like, God damn it. So,
I'm with you. With you.
So I guess I'll ask you a quick question. I ask this to
I'll give you
every.
a quick.
I'm sure you will. Now, I've never seen a quick question or answer from you. So I ask this to every coach, and I after the first time I asked it, I reword it every time now because it's not fair the first way. So I need to know what's your favorite team you've ever had, and what's the best season you've ever had, because they're totally different in every coach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, the best season we ever had. Again, I listened to Randy talk about it. Talk about wins. 2 years ago, we won 17 games, and that was the most wins in a season since I've been there. But in 2015, when I had Ethan King, we won sectionals. That's the only sectional we've won at NAC since I've been coaching there. You play to win the game, So, you can talk about those successes, but 15's got to be because we did our best. And it just so happens that year that we ran into the state champion in the first round of the playoffs, and it happened to be Lake George. And, we lost to them by 12 points. Nobody gave us a chance. It was 14. It was a 12 points. I had my guys foul at the end so I could get Ethan off the court and give him a standing ovation at the field house. And that was the first game. Joel Winkowski was on the team, scored over 2,000 points. That was the first game he'd been held under 20 points since his sophomore year, I was told. It's funny because I talked a little bit to Bill Mitchell, and he was, talking about, well, they got a game plan. They're going to hold him under. Well, if anybody remembers what Winkowski did the next game in Potsdam, he went video game on him. He scored 18 points in a matter of 4 minutes. It was coast to coast, and I took a clip of it with my phone. Like, look at every possession. He went nuts. I think he had 39 in that regional game, and then he hits
48
from the parking lot and down in Glens Falls, and I'm down there watching. I was like, man, why do we have to run into these guys first? But so that would have been. But Pete, to be honest with you, I think I did my best job coaching this year. And we went 11-11. And we went up and we scrimmaged Joey earlier on in the year, and he tattooed us. But I didn't know what I was doing. I'll be honest with you, because I had went through having point guard shooters, everything. And this year I had some good pieces, but and I had to glue it all together. And I remember down that stretch, and we're like, I don't know, guys, like 5-10. I don't know the quick math right off, but we won 6 out of our last 7 games. And we ended up 11-11. So thank God we didn't drop below 500. And I had to tell my guys, because I got 2 guys that have been playing since 9th grade and one since 10th grade. And they're kind of left over from all of that success. And I have to look at them and be honest. And I heard Jared Dumont talking about honesty. Just be honest with me. And that's exactly what I told my kids this year. I said, I got to be honest with you. We're not going to win games like we've been. But that doesn't mean we're going to lose it up here. That means we got a lot to prove. That torch has been passed on to you guys. It's your turn. So I think I did a good job gluing those guys together. But there's been teams in between, that 15 team and then this team that I've loved as well. I've got guys that still, stop by, say, hey, coach, what's up? What's going on at practice? They ask, they come to our games. You can see them over there. They're razzing the refs when they make a bad call, half joking, just giving them a so. But even the teams we lost, I got a kid that lives 3 houses down from me. And, we went back on a canoe the other day back in the Beaver Meadow behind the house. And him and I, he's 26 now. I call him a kid. He's 26. But we're back there don't know if I should say this, if this is even legal, but we're back there breaking up the beaver dam. You know, him and I are just, you know, over the water because the water level come up 30 feet into his back pasture, you know, that they mow. So, you know, I enjoyed those teams, but it's hard to win. I heard Dumont talking about it, you know, about kids being willing to sit the bench and not complaining when you're winning, you know. So I think those guys in the beginning, it was hard because they lost games. It's hard to glue guys together and get them to believe in what you're talking about when you're losing games. But you know, our best year, like I said, 2015 as far as in terms of success. And then I think this last year I did a pretty good job, and I was happy with those kids for keeping their mind right throughout the season when they could have folded and given up a little bit more. I was proud of my team this past year.
I do have to mention we did go out. I think it was Tommy and I. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Joey. I don't know. We went out. No,
Yeah.
it was you, Joey, wasn't it? Broadcast a game with me out there at NAC.
Yeah,
that night?
We
were up in the crow's nest. I guess
Yeah,
up in the far corner. Now
that was the year that Nate won the sectional championship. Pretty sure.
No, that was the year before.
Year before.
We were just starting to get good, but my kids were all freshmen. You know, a lot of my guys were freshmen, and that other guy I mentioned earlier was a junior, and we you know, might have won 6 games that year, but we were coming. You guys were at that game. We were playing Beekman Town, and they had a good run that year, pretty decent run. They had a good shooter, and you know, I was proud. I had a freshman guard in there, senior, and I think he held them to. I think the kid ended up with maybe 12 points, but 10 of them were from the free throw line late in the fourth quarter, and we lost that game by 4 or 6. You know, I remember you guys coming. I was appreciative of it. I said, shit, we're taking off now. I got guys down and commentating my game. I said, where am I what's gonna happen here next, you know? But I was appreciative of you guys, Pete and Joey, coming down there and doing that. It meant a lot to me, you know, especially at the young stage of coaching and just starting to get up over the crest a little bit in terms of success.
I'll tell you one thing I took away from that game. Number one, I'd never seen a small town pack a gym like that. I mean, it was bonkers in there. The second thing I realized that night, and Joey and I would go on a break, and I'd take off the headphones, look at him, and go, "What in the hell is going on out here?" And he goes, "What?" I said, "I have never seen so much hacking in my life. I mean, there should have been cops all over the place because there were so many assaults on the court." I'm going, how are they not calling that? They're just letting these kids play. I mean, I saw one kid, they clotheslined him coming through the middle. Nobody called it. And I'm sitting there going, I never seen nothing like this in my life.
Remember the broadcast, Pete? You're standing over there, and Pete goes, "How long before Coach Bilow takes that suit coat jacket off?" He says.
Yes, I did say that. I did say that. It won't be long. He'll be taking the coat off now.
Yeah,
that was a good night.
Good. Yeah, and we still get good crowds. I mean, you know, I never seen this year. We had a game. I haven't seen a ref get accosted by a group of fans like our fans did this year. I mean, he got booed. I never heard it like that since 1994, back when my brother was playing. I never heard the gyms just don't get like that. We had a guy get thrown out this year. He was banging on the wall behind him. I love it. I mean, I love our gym. I love where I coach. I know Joey's talked about it, fighting a hockey town. You've talked about it at Salmon. We got a good wrestling program here, and we lose athletes to that. And being a relatively small school, you know, it's hard to compete with those two, but I couldn't ask for a better place to coach, Pete. I really couldn't. I mean, you know, it was hard in the beginning when you're losing, but where I'm at now, the kids are hard-nosed kids. I love them. I love them to death. I remember my first year coaching JV, I went down and we did a scrimmage. This is the truth, a 5-quarter scrimmage at Plattsburgh. We're at the middle school gym. And at the time, we hadn't had a building project in our locker room. Our school colors are green and gold. I walk in the locker room at our school. We got red and blue lockers. What is? I go down to Plattsburgh and they got fancy black lockers with the orange trim. And look at this. And we go down there and we got beat 92-12 in a 5-quarter scrimmage. And I say to myself, I can't coach at NAC. I can't do this. I can't be here. This is not for me. I think I made a mistake. They come back, and this is in the season now, and we beat in the game. We scrimmaged them. Now this is the game. We're going to play them one time. And we beat them, JVs, 44-40. And I remember feeling like crap, like guilty. How could you, Nate? This is where you belong, you know? Because now all of a sudden I'm coaching kids and I know we're going to play hard. And I love that about where I'm at. I love, like you said, Pete, the atmosphere in that gym is great. We still pack it. Thankfully, we got the cheering program is still going to NAC. It makes for a better atmosphere, I feel, in the gym. And it packs that little corner up. And then they bring their parents and then their boyfriends. And so it brings 20, 30 extra people to the gym, you know, and it's a good spot to coach. I love that all you fans are on one side and you broadcasters, so I can be with my team and address them properly when I need to. And I love that the locker rooms are right behind. So I couldn't ask for a better spot, Pete. I really landed in a good spot. All I could use is a little help. I need a guy like Bill Myrna or Scotty Sargent as a JV coach or Joey Rion, somebody. I need somebody to come.
Tell me about it.
Well, you know, and the thing about it is you know, I was told you got to hand it over, and I'm thankful for everybody that's always helped. But the problem is if you don't get the right guy in there helping, or gal or whoever, sometimes it's detrimental. Now you're going back and you got to reteach things. And we all know that it's harder to reteach than to just go forward. And, you know, some of the things that I've heard just from listening to broadcasts is to other people talk. And I love hearing other people say the same things that go through my mind. But, you know, when you talk about the game of basketball, especially at the youth level, I mean, I handed that thing over. I walk out the gym, and if anybody uses these strategies, I'm not bad-mouthing them. It's not mine because I've never dribbled down the court in the middle of a game and said, oh, there's a chair. I got to cross the chair over and get by a chair. I walked out I said, that's a phys ed thing. But that's not what we need at the 5th and 6th grade level. I'm not ragging on anybody, but my point is that in the game of basketball, and I heard Colleen say something about it, when you see a cut or see a screen or this is made, things that don't show up in the box score, and those are the things that you need to have to be successful. Because we all know who gets league MVP and who gets these honors, and I already said it, and maybe I shouldn't. 1,000-point scores. Those guys don't get that if you don't have the guy that knows how to get them open, get them the ball that on time and on target. If they don't have other guys around them so they can get double teamed. I heard Jared Dumont talking about the Carter girl getting double teamed, had to bring in other pieces. The game of basketball, there's one ball and there's 10 players. So 9/10 of that game is played without the ball. When you walk away from your youth program and now all of a sudden all they're concentrating solely is on basketball and skills, and don't get me wrong, you need them, but you can't solely do that. So, you know, it would be nice to have some guys come back and hopefully you guys still, hopefully with any luck, I can get some of the guys that played for me to come back. And Joey, I know you talked about that, and Ledoux was talking about, you know, I got Jared coming back and Scotty Mitchell sitting on the bench. So, you know, hopefully I get some of those guys if I can hold on long enough to get those guys that just played for me to come back and start helping out and get jobs in the area. And because, you know, like Jared was saying, I was 23. I could drive. I could go watch any game. I could do all these things. Well, you know, I got a daughter now myself that's 10 years old. And so now I got to spend time in the gym with my daughter's team. So that takes away, it doesn't take away, it just makes it a little bit more difficult. During basketball season this year, I didn't get home, and I'm not complaining because I put myself in those shoes, but I didn't get home before 8 o'clock every night. It was 2:45, I had the varsity team, 4:30 was the JV team, and then I had either my boys 5th and 6th or my girls. And those nights that I didn't, I had a game and I had to be somewhere. You know, you're taking off and you go to Ticonderoga, and man, that should be section 2. I don't get back till 11:30 at night, you know, and I don't complain. I put myself in that position, but it gets tough. It'd be nice to have some people to come back and help out, you know. But
you tired? You sound like you're tired. I'm getting tired just listening to you. And that's another thing I was going to ask you. Being the farthest team to the west in your section, you must do one hell. I guess I just heard it, but
yeah,
you got to do a lot of traveling, dude.
Yeah, we do. Luckily, a lot of the teams that we play are right there in the Plattsburgh area. Beavertown, Saranac, Northeast Clinton, Plattsburgh, Peru. Those are all 35 minutes. That's not too bad. But then, you know, you got your longer trips, Saranac Lake and whatnot. But I'll tell you, Pete, one of the good things, at least at the youth level, is I've been able to, because I'm right on the border, and I've been lucky with my athletic director and the personnel at school, I've been able to run a tournament at the 5th and 6th grade level, 7th and 8th grade level, and older levels like this time of year or whatnot. And I'm able to bring in Section 10 teams. So that's kind of foreign over here in our section. I know Canton puts something on, and Joey puts something on, and Augsburg puts 3 of them on, and there's a lot of youth tournaments that take place. Because of where I'm at, I'm able to be, at least in the off season, bring teams from Section 10 over and teams from Section 7. So everybody kind of wants to meet. I'm kind of in the middle of all of my, I'm doing this show with you guys, and basically, everybody you've done has been a Section 10 guy. And although I played in Section 10, I'm not there now. I'm able to bring people together. So I'm far away in our section, but I love it where I'm at because I'm close to you guys, and I can get games with Chateauguay, I can get games with Brush, and I can get games with Salmon. And it's so, it's in our terms of our section, we're not really centrally located, but overall, I like where I'm at,
So moving forward, I guess, what's the future hold for Coach Bilow as far as all your programs and everything going on moving forward?
Yeah, I'll probably be a lifer, Pete. I don't know, man. I'd probably be a lifer at this thing. I'll probably die on the sideline over there. I don't foresee myself giving it up. I don't know what I would do in the winter anytime. I mean, I can't sit still as it is. When the summer finally comes, I'm busy. They'll say, "Oh, you got the summer off." I don't have the summer off. I'm going to be sweating more than I did, walking on the sideline. But I enjoy where I'm at. I like what I'm doing. It's rewarding. It's fun. I don't like being away from the guys too long, and it's the little things that you remember. I think I'll be there for a while. My daughter's coming through, and I don't want to coach her. I heard Dave was talking on something else. He says, how do you hats off to Randy for coaching your kid. And I'm like, I coached my kid for the first time this year, and I think I'll stop with her at the 5th and 6th grade level, Pete, with youth girls, and then I'll let somebody else take them, because as Joey said, I'm not here to ruin my relationship with my daughter over this sports thing. And I know you talk about your father, Pete, and the things that he would say to you, and I know my dad used to try. He would always be good at the games. He never said nothing, and he always told me he didn't holler nothing out during the game because he didn't want the coach to see that I was doing something wrong and then take me out of the game. So he'd wait. And then he'd get me in the driveway, and he wouldn't stop, man. 45 minutes after the game, I just want to go play Sega, go and take it. And he just keeps feeding me with things. And I know you talked about your dad, Pete, the same type of thing. And I don't want to do that to my kid. And one of the things I wrote down, try to do homework a little bit, Dave, to talk to Dave, how do you coach your kid? I feel bad. There was a game, tournament late in the season. I got my daughter's team, and that was one of the things that kind of made it easy. You say, you do so much. Well, I had some guys that went to a tournament in Messina, and they were there for 7 hours, and they played 3 games. You play a game, sit 2, play a game, sit 2, play. Well, fortunately enough, those guys kind of took care of me. I played with 3 teams, 2 boys team, 5th and 6th, and a girls. But I had a game every hour for 9 hours. So you were there for 7 and got 3. But I was there for 9. I got 9 games. And so it wasn't really too much more. So I'm at a tournament, same type of setup, boys and girls on the same weekend in Saranac. And I tell my daughter to slide down the bench and sit with the rest of her teammates. And she gives me some lip, like, I'm going to get a drink, I'm going to do this or that. And I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but, anybody who knows me, I'd just rather be honest. I tell my kid, I said, I coach 4 teams, and there's only one player that I can slap, and that's you. I told you. So he slid down the thing, and I was like, man, I don't want to coach my daughter, So people have asked me, "Are you going to switch over to the girls' side?" And I said, "Nah, I don't think so. I love my kid too much to do that to her." I will never get, if I'm going to do the varsity, Pete, I'll never give up the 5th and 6th grade. I can tell you that. So as long as I'm doing it, as long as I'm coaching, I've got 18 more years till I'm eligible for retirement. So unless somebody down at the school doesn't like my coaching style and they ask me to tone it down or do it a different way, I've said it 100 times. If somebody doesn't like the way I'm doing it, here's my whistle and here's the key. And thank you. I've learned a lot about a lot of things in life, and I got a lot of good memories from coaching. I'm not ready to walk away yet. but I'll go 18 more years as of right now. But who knows what the future will bring? You know, every 5-10 years, life changes. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I always tell the story. I told the story to my girls when they were coming up about my father, and he didn't mean it to be cruel. He wanted
Sure.
to instill more basketball knowledge to you. So
Yeah.
when a scenario happened to you, same thing with baseball. My oldest brother was a big basketball player.
Yeah.
Paul, my middle brother. I was a baseball kid. I
Yeah.
remember this one game. I went 3 for 4. I was co-MVP of the league that year. I went 3 for 4. I brought in 7 runs that game, and I had some fantastic plays at first base. And he was pissed off that I struck out on the one because I caught myself with a curveball, and I was a fastball hitter. And he says, "You
Yeah.
got to watch out for that. I told you 100 times." And it wasn't meant to be cruel, but it was to
Yeah.
instill more knowledge. And I coached my oldest daughter, and I told my youngest I would never coach her, and she was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
But I had to separate that.
Yeah.
And I know what you and Joey go through. I really do. You have to separate it sometime, and God bless you. But
Yeah.
I think when they get older, they're going to realize why you had to
Yeah.
to not do it.
Well, you know, and I heard Scotty Sargent talking about it too, you know, and him learning from his older brother. And that's why I like watching your guys' show and listening to your show, because you learn stuff. I mean, I'm 38 years old, Pete. I'm still learning, you know, and I think I'm getting better as a coach. I'm getting better as a person, hopefully better as a father. And that's one of the things, you know, after listening to Sarge go a little bit of like, man, I'm going to try to do better next year with my daughter. It was the first year really coaching her and whatnot. So I try to do better because I don't want to put her in that position where, you know, she doesn't want to play the sport or anymore because of me. You know, so you try to learn and try to do those things, but I do those things with, you know, I had a lady one time, she was talking and something about playing and, I wish I played for Nate Bilow and this and that. And she said, well, he hollers at the kids. I said, yeah, I do, but that's because I want them to do well. I don't ever holler at a kid for doing something that we haven't practiced or talked about or been over. You know, we were doing an AAU tournament in Bruston one time, and I got the 7th graders. These are the kids that came up that were good for me, and I drop a play last however many seconds. He's in 7th grade, and the kid goes out in the corner, doesn't perform it, and I yell his name out, and it's okay, never mind, but come on. You know, we lost the game and we didn't get the shot off, and I wanted to blow my lip out. You didn't teach it. You didn't coach it. You drew it up on the sideline to a 7th grader. You can't expect him to know that. So, you know, I do. But like you said, Pete, like what your father was doing for you, it's not because you don't love the kid. You know, I love those kids I coach. And if I didn't holler, I tell them like this, because people say stuff about that, or you get – when my dog, I love my dog, and he runs out towards that road, what's the first thing? Get away from the damn road. You're going to holler at him? Because I don't love him, it's because I do love him, you know, because I do care about him. And that's why if I didn't care, then I wouldn't get, you know, I would sit on the bench and I'd filter kids in and out and let everybody play equal. And that's not what's best for everybody. That's not real life. You know, there's roles that we all play, and, you know, you coach and you do it because you do love them. Just like Pete, what you were saying with your father, and Joey, I know the same with you. When you coach your kid and with your own kid, it's a little bit challenging because you got to get in the car with them and you got to go home, and then you got to make them dinner and you got to tuck them in at night. And if you've said some stuff on the court, you know, you know, the other kids go home, and if they're mad at you, well, they'll get over it because they, you know, they look at you as coach. The other kid's gonna look at you as dad, you know.
Yeah. So go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was just going to say, Nate, you know, Dave, as we were trying to come up with lists of people to ask to come on the show, I kind of had mentioned Toby to Dave and Pete, not because I'm trying to get my son on here, but for that reason, so that they can ask that. And so you may see Toby on here at some point. I want to ask him about some other things. I want to bring him and Colby Perkins on. We're going to talk about two really good high school basketball players that didn't continue their career but are keeping basketball in their lives by being a manager and a student assistant coach. But I know that will give an opening for Dave and Pete if they want to be able to ask Toby about, hey, what was it like playing for Dad? You know, and get that thought process out there, because I'd love to hear what Toby would have to say.
It'd make for an awesome show, man. It'd make for an awesome show to sit back and listen to it through his eyes, man. No doubt about it.
Well, I plan on drilling him. I do. I plan on drilling him with questions.
No questions. Don't throw him no meatballs.
No softball. So I got another one that just came up. So
yeah,
we were kind of bummed this year when they shut down the states and sectionals, because we were getting geared up for Glens Falls, buddy, and I know you love going down there with us. So
huge fan.
Oh yeah, we all went to church and everything else down there. So
yeah.
What did Skipper say the other night? The library.
Yeah, I got my library card. I found it.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not the only one. Coach Sean Backus, this guy, he blew an opportunity, Pete. This guy probably could have made. I'll exaggerate it, but it's my story. He probably could have made $10,000 that night. He made up shirts that said F. I think the F was for forget. It said F Binghamton. And it had a shirt with the cheers at Glens Falls and the thumbs down there at Binghamton. And he made them up for us. And we went down, and there was like 6 guys with these shirts on, and we were out at wherever we were out, and people wanted these shirts. Joey, do you remember? Were you there?
Yeah.
People wanted these shirts. He could have made thousands, if not hundreds, thousands of dollars that night, and he blew his chance. And then when we went down to Binghamton, it just wasn't the same. Like, we weren't, where are you staying? You get on the phone, and there was really no central area. It just, for where it seemed like everybody was meeting, there was guys. And a matter of fact, we ended up staying with a buddy in Elmira. I mean, that's how far away that is. And I had a fun time, but it just wasn't the same. We went the 2 years Mariah was down there. I didn't go last year, and that was the first time. I hopped in with my dad 2005. I got done playing, and the next year I went down with my father, and we got the same hotel and that same dump that we go to every year in the corner room there. And I got thousands of great stories. We could do a 5-hour program just on hotel.
Glens Falls.
The things that took place in that hotel room and the funny stories, the guys I hung out with. And, it was coming back, and it was, man, hopefully we can get everybody back down there again. And then this hit. And, I know you guys have talked about it. You still had Madrid was still going. Chateauguay was still going. There was, who else was still, Joey, your girls were still going. Who knows what could have happened. It's always better when you got a team you can go down there and kind of root for, instead of just, teams that you don't know are in it. And some of those teams are within a game of being there.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been Loudville would have been somebody I wanted to see from Section 3, because Loudville had played Oxford twice and went and lost to Girard last year. They were somebody I was really looking forward to watching. So,
Joey, let's hit you with a good question. The spring sports season here has come to an end. Is it fair that maybe we're going to have to cut part of our stipend for that AD position? Because you asked me what I'm doing as a phys ed teacher. What are you doing as a director now?
They cut the little stipend that I'm getting. That there'll be an AD opening here in Central Central. Tell you that.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. Don't get me going on what some of my fellow ADs are making for doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. Don't get me going.
You do it for the love, Joey. But I know I bring that up just kind of saying, because I know you've been to the hockey thing before. I know you've been to the softball thing. How cool would that have been, Coach, if you would have been able to go down and at Hudson and been able to watch your girls' team while you're already down there, get to watch one of your teams, man?
Yeah. That would have been interesting. And our girls would have been playing at Hudson the week before Final Four, playing whoever the Section 2 team was. They were really good. Cambridge.
Yeah, pretty good.
So I would have had back-to-back weekends, whether the girls won or not. I would have had back-to-back weekends because I would have been going to Glens Falls. So I was like, oh, this is good. I'm going down there for 2 weeks in a row. But it didn't happen.
How could Katie argue?
She would have been happy for me to go.
Get you out of the house.
That's what my mom said. Somebody said to my mom, how long are you going to keep working for? She worked at the hospital in Plattsburgh for 40-something years. And she says, you know, my husband's been retired since 2005. And she goes, I realized I don't want to be home with him. She said, I'm going to keep working. She didn't want to stay home with him.
Well, Nate, we got to wrap things up here. This has been a fast hour. Always is when we have you on, buddy. We'll have to do this again in the future, but really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man, it really did go by fast. I thought we'd get to a lot more things. Boy, an hour goes by fast. I'm glad you had me on again, Pete. It was nice to come back. Like I said, I've been following your shows. Joey texted me a couple of links there, and I take them. I take a watch on them. So I can't wait to who's the next guest going to be. Pete, lead us into who's coming on next. I don't even know.
Well, Monday night we have Derek Lalone coming on with us, Tampa Bay Lightning assistant coach. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
So we got some big names next week.
Nate, Ellenberg Depot was in the middle of 2 Tampa Bay shows.
Yeah, how did that on a Friday night? I can't get you guys. I wouldn't want to spend my Friday night anywhere else but with you guys.
Sounds good, Nate. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
All right. Hey, hi everybody. Good night, everybody. For Dave Bilow, Nate's gone. No, there he is. For Dave Bilow, Joey Realm, and myself, and our guest Nate Bilow. This is Pete Goslaw signing off from ESS Empire State Sports on the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Everybody, stay safe out there. Good night.